Hello guys, I hope you are doing good. Welcome to another video. Today we are going to solve one of the most common interview question that you can expect in the front end. What's programming interview without creating a to-do list? So we are going to create a to-do list. On the screen you can see right we have this URL open called to-do MVC. Here there is one input box where if I type something and I press enter, a new to-do is created which I can mark as done and it will strike out the text. I can again click back and it will pull it back to the active state. There is an option to delete, and then if I double click on the text I can re-edit that. So this is what we are going to create. All this filter all active and completed, this we are not going to implement. This I'll keep you as an exercise. So after implementing this you can implement these three filters and filter out the content. What we are going to implement is we'll have this input box where if you type something and press enter, we can list down the to-dos, and if I click on any of those to-dos we'll mark it as done. So let's get started. We can expect this for HT1, 2 and 3s in the machine coding rounds, and the time limit will be anywhere between 45 minutes to 50 minutes to implement the complete functionality. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the to-dos. So let's create that items. This will be a component that will get the text, whatever the to-do text is, and then if it is completed or not. So we will have just two states. If it is completed, we'll strike out the text. Otherwise, if it is not completed, we'll do nothing. And here we are going to return a div inside that we are going to have three sections. One is for the circle, one is for the text, and the third one is the close button. So here we'll have circle, here we'll have the text, and here we'll have the close button. So now the structure or the boilerplate of our item component, a single to-do item, is ready. Let's include that over here. So let's call this as item itself, and then we'll pass text as hello world. So now on the screen you see we got all the element placed. Let me copy this is the text, this is the checkbox. Okay, this is checkbox. We'll need the arrow. So what's the Unicode for the arrow? Let's Google that. Tick check mark, is there an arrow, check marks, Unicode? We don't have. So we got this Unicode for the check mark. I think this should be the work. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So we got the check mark. Now let's create the circle. Let me give this a class name as item, and here to the item let's display flex, align items center, and then justify content space between. So everything will be in a single line. Let's wrap this. So this app is there, right? Let's give it a max width of 500 pixel and margin 0 auto. This should wrap things under 500 pixel, or let's do it 300 pixels. Now this will be wrapped under 300 pixel, and let's have another item just below that. So we got two items, we need to have some spacing. So padding, we can have it as 5 pixel, and margin border, we can have border as border bottom 1 pixel, sorry, hash 000. So we got the border. That's done. Now here let's add this as close. By default the close will have the cursor pointer and opacity as 0, and on transition all 0.2 seconds with ease. And whenever we hover on the item, so item colon hover will change the close to be visible, so we'll change the opacity to 1. So if I hover, you see that we are able to see the close button, otherwise it is hidden by default. And now over here let's style that too. We'll give this as a class circle. So circle width is 30 pixel, height is 30 pixel, and border radius is 50%, so that we get a circle, and then we'll have border 1 pixel solid green, and display inline flex, line item center, and justify content to center. So we got the circle in the center, and now only when the user clicks on it and it is completed, then we have to show this. So that will handle. Now we got the item, the structure of the item ready. Here let's remove this and have an input box. So input type equals to text, and then on change, so if I go back to example to-do MVC, you see that if I type something and enter, press the enter button, then only it is added to the list. That means we have to listen to the enter key. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to listen to the on key press event, and then handle key press, and let me create that const handle key press. And what we are going to do is we are going to check if the e dot key equals to enter, then we have to store the value. So const val or input text, set input text. No, so do we really have to persist this? Don't think so. Rather, here we can have the to-dos and set to-dos as an array. So use state and array we are going to have. And now when the user clicks on the enter, what we are going to do is we are going to set to-dos. We are going to merge the existing to-dos and we are going to create a new entry. In the new entry, we'll set the text as e.target.value and then completed as false, and then we'll add a ID to it. So ID as, you can use any unique identifier because we are writing the code during the interviews, right? So you can use something unique to identify this as a ID. So here I'm going to use date dot now, that will return me the milliseconds that I can use as a new ID. So this should create or set a new to-dos, and then we have to show that to-dos. So here to-dos dot map and we are going to return the item. So I'm going to set the key as the ID and the remaining thing I'm going to pass it as it is key.id. So this should generate the items if we have it any in the to-dos list. So let's do that. If I type something and press enter, you see that it is added to the list and the list is visible. But after adding, the list is not getting cleared. This input box should reset. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a reference. So const input ref equals to use ref. We are going to create one reference and then we will pass this reference to the input. So ref equals to input ref, and then here after setting, once the enter key is pressed, we will say that input ref dot target dot value equals to empty string. So this will reset the input. Now if I come back, if I type something over here and press enter, cannot set properties of undefined. Okay, so input ref, it returns current key that we have to use on which we can set the target and the value. So let me save this, reload again, and here if I type something and press enter, you see that cannot set properties of undefined. Let's see what happened. So here we don't have the target, that because this input ref refers to this input only. So the target does not comes into the play. We are not looking for something that is global. So right now we just have to listen or update to the value. Now this one should work. If I come back and type and enter, you see that the input box is emptied and we have a new list added to the to-dos. Now let's design or update the style for the input. Let's make it of the same size as we have of the the to-dos. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to style the input. We'll set the width as 100%, padding 5 pixel, and then font size is 1.2 em. And margin bottom as 10 pixels so that we get some space. The bottom 20 pixel. Okay, if I reload this now and if I come over here, type something and press enter, you see that we get multiple values added to the to-dos. Now by default we are getting this check mark. It should only come on when the input is completed. So let's handle that. Here in the code, we'll say that if completed, then only show the check mark, otherwise empty string. So there is an error, unexpected token. Okay. So this is unexpected token that we got. We cannot set Unicode like this. Let's see if we can do it in a variable. Const Unicode. So completed. Then we have to set this. This we cannot pass it as it is. And here also we cannot set. Let me remove this. Let's replace this with the text. Done. If I set the Unicode directly, it will take it as a string. So we'll have to set it otherwise as a span. Let's see if I can do it as a span. So span. Okay, now this should work. And if I click on this, the state should change. So we have to handle the events. One is to complete the text, and the second is to edit this, and the third is to remove the to-dos. So let's do one by one. Let's first handle the complete section. So on click, we have to update the completed. So update completed, and that we'll do by using the ID. So we'll extract the to-do ID and we'll pass it to the update completed. Now this update completed, this function has to be passed to the items, and this will handle in the parent. So here I'm going to create const handle completed. This will get the ID, and here what we'll do is we'll do const updated list, and we are going to map the to-dos dot map e, and here we'll say that if e dot id equals to id, what we are going to do is we are going to set e dot completed equals to not e dot completed. So whatever is the inverse value we are going to update. So if it is true, it will be set to false, and then at the end we are going to return the e, and this has to be updated in the set to dos. So updated list. So what we are doing over here is whenever we click on the to dos, this will invoke the parents update completed, that will invoke handle completed. In the handle completed, we'll get the ID. We are iterating the to dos, and under that we are checking for the to dos with the given ID, and we are updating the state. So let's see if it is working or not. Now if I click on this, you see that we are getting the check mark. That means it is working fine. So if you click on any of that, it goes into the completed or uncompleted state. Similarly, when we click on it and it goes to completed state, this has to be striked out. So what we'll do is we'll add a class name. So class name, and if completed, then we are going to add strike, otherwise we'll add nothing. And now here with the class strike, we'll say that text decoration line through. So this will strike out the text. So you see that if I click on it and it becomes completed, so we strike out the text. So this is handled. This is working fine. Now let's handle the delete part and then we'll handle the update part. So for the delete to do, again we'll create a function, and here also we'll have handle delete, and now const handle delete, this will have the ID. What we are going to do is we are going to filter out the to do with the given ID and update the list. So what will happen is, and this will remove the ID that has been, or the to do that has been clicked, and it will be removed from the list. So to do's dot filter, and we say that return all the to do's, or filter out all the to do's whose ID is not matching to the input ID, and then set the to do's back. Now see, let's invoke. So on click, we are going to pass the ID to delete to do. If I come back over here, type something, and if I click on the close button or X mark, it is removing the to do from the list. So see, simple. And after that, the final part is we have to edit the to do. So edit is similar to update. Rather than changing the state from completed to uncompleted, we have to update the text. So here let's do that. Update text. We'll create this function, and then what we are going to do is, whenever we double click on this text, right, we have to show an input box with the same value, so that this can be used for editing. Now for that, let me create a state. So const show edit and set edit, and use state as false by default. And when we click on the text, so on double click we have the event double click. On double click we are going to set the edit to true. So it will always be used for editing only, and when we go out of focus, so it should be hidden. So we set the edit as true, and now once the edit is true, what we do is, if edit, so we have to show the input box, otherwise we have to show the text itself. So input type equals to text, and value will be the text itself, whatever we have typed. So if I double click, you see that we get an input box with the value. Now because we are setting the value, right, it has to be a controlled component. So what we are going to do is we are going to create another state. So const text set text. So we cannot have text is conflicting with the already input, so let's have the edit text and set edit text, and here we'll say that use state and have the text as the default value, and here we'll set here on the input we'll set the edit text, and on change we are going to set, so set edit text e.target.value. So whenever the text changes, we are going to update the text in the state. Also, whenever we go out of focus to this input box, we have to stop editing. So what we are doing over here is we are setting set edit as false. So if I double click, I am editing. If I click somewhere outside, it is hidden. Again, if I double click, we are editing. If I click somewhere outside, it is hidden. And if I change the values, you see that this becomes a controlled component. Now only thing pending over here is once the text is updated, we have to pass that data. The final thing pending is we have to, once we have edited the text, we have to pass that value, the new value, to the parent so that it can be updated in the list. So we already created this update text function. We'll use the same. On change, we are going to pass the value to the parent. So not on change, we can pass it on the blur also. That's because on change, what will happen is as we type, it will keep on updating the list, and we can update it once the user has finished typing also. So it's up to us. You can ask this to the interviewer and then take the call. There is some error. Okay. Now this update text, this we have to pass. So update text equals to handle update text, and then we have to create the function const update text, and here we'll have the ID and the new text. Now let me copy everything from the handle completed, and here what we are going to do is e.text that will be updated to the new text, and then this will set up. So update text we have accepted, and then here we have to pass the ID as well. So ID and the edit text, so that we can update the text at the given ID for the given to do. Let me type something, press enter. If I double click, add 1 to 2, click, and then again. So it is updating the to do, and now we can mark it as complete, or we can remove this. We can further edit this. So you see that even if it is completed, it's being edited. So that's the one case we have to handle. Now on change, so we have this double click, right? It is setting it to the true. So let's handle the editing. So only if it is not completed, if not completed, then only we can edit. So we have updated the state. Now if I double click on this, see, nothing is happening. If I uncheck this and if I double click, then only it will become editable. So this is how you can create a complex version of to-do. You'll be asked something similar during the interviews. So this is how you can implement it. I hope you have learned something new today. Thank you for your time.